I'm Austri Reifer, and you're listening to Good Vibes Sunday, a podcast brought to you by I Am Warhol, the blog. Every other Sunday, I'll be sitting down with provocative thinkers, industry disruptors, and culture changers. My intention for every guest is to talk about breaking barriers, shifting old paradigms, and really just opening up in vulnerable conversations. In between guests, I'll be having Candid Sundays, which are where I just come in and I have a candid day where I just talk about life and I do life with you guys. Good Vibes Sunday is a place to fuel up on good vibes every Sunday. I don't pretend to have the answers to all of life's questions, and I only hope that my personal experiences and those that I share of others will help you in some way to be able to relate those into your life and hopefully bring you that much closer to the answers that you do seek. So please join me on this journey of getting your dose of good vibes and filling our homes and our hearts with good vibes. Happy Sunday, everyone. Our Good Vibes Sunday guest this week is Brandi Milloy. She's a TV host, food reporter, lifestyle and parenting expert, and an at-home cook known for her simple and fun approach to food. She shares all her go-to recipes and the personality-driven stories behind them on her popular blog, brandimilloy.com. What you'll find are her easy pantry staple meals, her family favorites, and dishes that are crowd-pleasing for any occasion. Some of her most popular recipes revolve around her undeniable sweet tooth and were one of the main driving forces behind the 2 YouTube series she hosted and produced for POPSUGAR Food called Eat the Trend and Get the Dish with Brandi Milloy. Brandi is a badass, you guys. She stars in her new Food Network series called Let's Eat, where she shares her favorite delicious and easy-to-make home recipes. She also took her digital hit show onto television on the cooking channel special called Eat This Now. When she's not in the kitchen, she's coming up with time and money-saving hacks for new moms, creating stylish tablescapes for her next party, or just finding new ways to redecorate her beach bungalow. Growing up in a military family, Brandi moved around a lot and credits this experience to her love for food, people, culture, and travel. Brandi is a regular on NBC's Today Show in New York, where she is a Today tastemaker. Additionally, Brandi serves as a contributor for KTLA, Extra, Access Hollywood, and many others, and lends her skills as a judge on a show that's on Food Network called Guy's Grocery Games, also on Food Network Star, Chop Jr., and many more. When she's not cooking, baking, recipe tasting, or hosting backyard barbecues with family and friends, Brandi is enjoying being a new mom and just sharing adventures with her daughter, Millie, little sassy Millie, at Little Amazing, and her husband, Chris, at Mr. Amazing in Los Angeles. Today, we're honored to have a little of Brandi's time where she talks about the connection of food to the soul, her family life. But as always, it's Good Vibes Sunday, so we dig a little deeper. And I wanted to talk to her about a story she recently posted to Instagram where she explains a situation that keeps occurring where strangers come up to her little girl, her baby girl, Millie, and they squeeze her thighs because, they're nice, gummy, adorable thighs, and they point out, the little one's weight. And so we really dig into children affirmations. We dig into self-love as a mom, as a wife, as a woman, as a human being. We dig into spiritual growth. We dig into so much that I am sitting here and I can't wait to share this podcast with each and every one of you. So please help me in welcoming Brandi Milloy. All right, Brandi, so we're so honored to have you on. Thank you for agreeing to do this.
Hey, Brandi, how's it going?
Hi, I'm good. I'm thrilled to be here.
Oh, well, we're thrilled to have you. Thank you.
We're very excited to have you on.
All right, Brandi, so I want to start with something that we talk a lot about here on Good Vibes Sunday, and that is the soul. You know, Adam and I, we work with homes, so we always say that home is the root of the soul. It's our company motto, which translates to home isn't just the structure itself. You know, what turns houses into homes is really the memories we create, the words that we speak to each other, the laughter we share, etc. So, Brandi, do you find that the same is true with food? Would you say that there is a connection between the soul and food?
Oh, I mean, food is the universal language.
Oh, yeah.
I had the opportunity to do a mission trip in Uganda, Africa, and I tell people that the best pasta I had was in Uganda. And I've had Scott Conant's pasta, I've had pasta in Italy, and I just remember being in that moment and my friend Rita making this amazing pasta over fire and with fresh tomatoes and just being able to taste like all these years of her, you know, creating this beautiful recipe that she feeds her family and her community. And I just think that there's so much of storytelling behind food. You know, it's something that everyone does, and everyone says it's a connector, but I think if you really slow it down and think about the way that we think of food, the smells, how we prepare it, and the love that we put into every recipe. And that's why people say, you know, oh, this doesn't taste the way my grandma would make it, or it's so close, but not. And that's because you just can't recreate that. And,
absolutely.
And I absolutely. I think that food is such a huge part of the home, and there's something so soulful about it.
Right. That's, you know, it's the same thing with us. We always say, you know, you can right away when you walk into a home, you feel the essence of the people that live there. You feel, you know, and it could be both good and bad. Sometimes you walk in and you're like, it doesn't feel as warm in here. It feels a little cold. And right. So, or you could feel that warmth, that love. And I think that transcends through the homes we sell. I mean, people fall in love with the homes as soon as they walk in. They're like, I need that home. I felt a warmth to it, almost like a hug.
I was gonna say yes. I was gonna say we've had clients say we felt a hug coming in the home. We're like, really, a hug?
Yeah, because it's like
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a soul. It's what we bring to homes, really. Even when Adam was in baseball, I always say home can be anything. It could be food. It could be a memory. It could be a person. When he was away in baseball, I always said, you know, Daddy was home because he was always gone. He would be gone 6 months at a time sometimes. And home was where he was, you know. So I love that. All right, Brandi. Well, speaking of food, your husband, Christian, the man can cook up one hell of a meal. Did you bring that out of him, or was he already an amazing cook when you all met?
Oh my gosh, I love that you asked that. So actually on our second date, our plan was we were going to go out to lunch and then watch a football game afterwards. And I was like, oh, it's the perfect mix of like, we'll sit down, we'll talk, and then we'll go to a bar.
Sure.
And then I showed up at his place, and when he opened the door, he had like this full-on spread of like a charcuterie board and nuts and crackers. And I was like, what is this? And he said, oh, well, I thought, you know, maybe you'd want a snack, because I had kind of traveled like an hour to get there.
Yes.
And I just thought that was the sweetest thing. But, you know, as we started dating, it really was revealed that he loves to cook. And he's just so good at it. And I think what really got him excited about cooking wasn't me. It was when he got his big green egg. It's a type of smoker
Do you
grill.
Want to tell her?
That's like my dream right there, Brandi.
Oh my gosh, okay. You guys have to come over.
Yes.
When you're scouting clients or looking at homes, come to our little casita.
Absolutely.
And he will make the most amazing brisket. Actually, a quick funny story is when our daughter Millie was born, after a couple months, you know, she started sleeping through the night, and it was just wonderful. And we had some family come for the weekend. And it was funny because my newborn baby's sleeping through the night, but my husband was getting up every 2 hours to burp his big green egg because we were having a barbecue the next day, and he was exhausted. And everyone's like, oh, was the baby up a lot? I'm like, no, he was making your brisket and tri-tip.
He was making this
and it takes
amazing
like
meal.
16 hours. So
No, it's true. No, every time, I mean, I say it's true, like I've tried it, but I could see it through just your stories. I mean, he has just where everybody can find him is at Mr. A, or is it at Mr. A Meals, right?
Mr. A Meals, yeah.
Oh my gosh. No, I love that. Speaking of Christian, so I remember you once said in one of your stories of Instagram, you said you guys wake up early, really early before Millie wakes up, and you guys have chats over coffee in the mornings.
Yes.
How important is it for your marriage to carve out time to be alone and just to keep that romance going?
Yeah, we've been doing this since right before we got married. We call it quiet time. It's basically time super early in the morning where we're completely unplugged. We, don't answer our phones. We're not checking our emails, and we're just enjoying each other's company. A lot of times we're snuggled on the couch, drinking coffee, catching up. And I think something that's really important for a marriage or for any relationship is just to unplug and engage with each other. And it's just one solid hour where we can do that. And it's funny because I shared this with a friend of mine, and they always try to do this when the kids went to bed at night. But at night, they were so exhausted from the day, right? Or they just wanted to lie down and watch a show together. But it's not the same. There's different types of ways you can spend time with your significant other. But for us, doing it first thing in the morning just really gives us that time to reconnect. And I love it. And, even being new parents to a little newborn, we still made sure that we had those times together.
Right, because being a busy mom, I could say this, Arian is going to be 11 now.
11, yeah.
And we get so caught up, especially with our business, being a busy working mom, you get so caught up that sometimes, I've seen it happen. So many women forget to be a wife still, and take the time to even just get ready for their husbands and keep that romance. I remember you did a story and you guys were a little tipsy and you were saying how important it is. You're like, ladies, it's so important to keep this romance alive. And it is. And I thought about that, and she's right. It really is. And I love that you say that it's in the morning that you're most, and Adam and I, it's the same thing. When you wake up in the morning, there's something about that. We say you never check your phones, you don't jump on social media, you give up your sovereignty when you do that. But if you give that love and attention to each other, it sets you up for the rest of the day, doesn't it?
Yes. It's so true. Yeah. There is something magical in the morning when it's just so quiet and calm. And nothing's happened throughout the day. That's, sometimes I feel like we use our spouses as our best girlfriends, where you just want to regurgitate everything that happened, or you want to vent about something. And sometimes it's you want to keep that relationship with your spouse separate, even though hopefully everyone is married to their best friend, but just not feeling like you have to dump all this information on them. And so in the mornings, you've just hopefully had a nice relaxing slumber together, and you can just really just be in that moment with each other.
Absolutely. I would say that you guys probably owe it to that you have that healthy relationship, because you guys, I could feel that, I really could.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And that leads me to my next question. Adam and I were always told, you guys are this perfect little family, and you guys are so blessed, and we're like, well, that's wonderful, and thank you, but
lies. Got you.
You should have heard us in the car on the way over here.
No, but it just, to me, I was telling Adam, I was like, this is so funny because it's all based off what they see on social media. I'm like, really, a lot of these people don't really even know us. I'm like, we have our arguments, even a little bit of a messy life sometimes, and we just like any family does. It's not really always perfect. But for you guys, you guys are adorable. How do you guys get through, the arguments? How do you move through those arguments when they do happen?
Yeah, so actually, before we got married, we decided to do a marriage retreat. It's actually something that the Catholic Church strongly recommends before you get married. And I remember both of us kind of dreading it because we just thought it was going to feel like we were in school and we were being forced to listen to theology or something. Anyways, we got so much out of that weekend together that we decided that we would continue doing a retreat once a year. And so we actually recently participated in a wedding retreat, and they gave us this amazing worksheet. And my husband, as soon as he got it, he was like, "Oh my God, this is the answer. I need this." And basically, guys are so they love to have the key to something or the map or. And so all it is just relational needs, and it's based basic list of different relational needs that humans have. And it's one of those things where when you're having a conversation, or you're arguing or you're fighting, a lot of times you just need to, quiet it down, and one person needs to ask the other, what do you need from me?
Yes.
And on this list, one of it is just acceptance, or I need validation. Like, I'm telling you about my boss, and I just want you to validate that that you hear me, and that what I'm feeling is right. Sometimes it's just to listen. And it was funny because I'm definitely the kind of fixer, and I never really realized it. And so when we got this sheet and we were kind of role playing and practicing, I realized, like, wow, even just stopping in the middle of a conversation, argument, whatever, and if the other person says, what do you need from me right now? A lot of times the person's like, can you just listen? Like, can you just let me have this moment?
Yes.
Or it's like, can you just hug me? Like, I just need a hug.
Yeah.
And I really think that that's advice that a lot of people can try to implement into their own conversations, because women and men speak and communicate so differently.
Oh, yes.
And that's why the love languages, the 5 love languages, is something everyone should do. But yeah, anytime that we argue, we definitely have like guidelines and rules. We don't go to bed angry. There's no slamming doors. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Although for some people, they need to step aside. They need to be like, I need a moment. I love you. I'm going to go for a drive. Totally cool.
Yeah.
But for us, a lot of it is, let's figure out what we're trying to say to each other without yelling.
Yeah.
And what is that relational need that we need from the other person?
I love that you say that. Oprah, she did this, a survey, or not even a survey. She interviewed, I think she had like 5 men who had cheated on their wives, and she was trying to figure out why they cheated. And she said what she discovered was that each and every one of the men couldn't say anything special about the person that they had cheated with, but what they did say is, I just want to be heard. I just want to be validated, which is what you just said. And that's really, I told that, I'm like, gosh, I feel like at the root of it all of us we all want love, right? We all want to be validated. And then Adam and I always say, it's listen to understand, not to respond, because there's a difference.
Yes.
Right? There's the ego.
Totally.
Yeah, the ego always wants to say, you're already thinking about what you want to say before you're even listening, and trying to understand what the person's trying to say. And I think that's what's
Mr. Ego is always there trying to get me.
Sure. Yes. No, and it definitely is. And then there's the thing called contagious, right? And Brandi, you talked about this the other day in one of your stories. I love this. Thoughts become things. And that's another thing I feel like when you're bringing this up is that, with us as a couple, if I'm feeling out of alignment, if I'm feeling crappy, or I'm PMSing, because that's probably when it happens the most.
Those PMS trips.
Those are bad. Then I feel like it becomes a snowball effect, and I become so contagious to Adam. It starts to transcend to Arian, and then I'm like, oh gosh, now I'm in this whole predicament where it's all becoming bad. So I need to always step away and have, kind of reassess myself.
Yes, right.
Is that something that with Millie, with your husband, is that something you guys practice at home?
All the time. I mean, this is really a principle that I've used since I was little. Thoughts become things become habits. And the more that you say something, the more energy you're putting into it, positive or negative. People can go to my website and read about my birth story, but a great example of this is just a visualization that I had about my birth story. I had natural, very quick, easy, amazing birth. And I really attribute it to, thoughts become things, and constantly having those positive images and positive thoughts in my mind. I've been doing vision boards since I was in high school. It's something that I do every year. And then my husband and I started doing it as a couple. And I do think that there's so much power in the law of attraction and the idea that you create
your reality.
Whatever energy, you want in your life. We all have friends where it just seems like something bad happens over and over again.
Yes.
And sometimes, tons of bad things happen that are out of our control. But I'm talking about the things where you realize, okay, I made a choice, and that choice led to this choice, and that choice led to this.
Oh, Brandi. So good. Yes.
Right? All areas of our life. So, yes, I'm all about manifesting a positive environment and a positive mindset. And I even have done this with my daughter, Millie. I started doing affirmations with her when she was little, and people thought I was so silly. I'm talking when she was days old. I would say these affirmations to her every night, and my husband and I, always try to speak positively and kind to each other, because I do think that what you say and what you believe is what you become.
Absolutely. 100%. Can we be friends? This is incredible.
I thought we already were.
Absolutely. No, we are. No, absolutely. But like best friends. No, it's like I made a podcast so I could replay the affirmations for Arian. Arian's now 11. And actually, this leads me to my next question. Do you believe, because some people say, oh, well, they have to understand, for them to understand the affirmations, but you started very early on, and you also said you speak to Millie as though she's an adult, which I love that. Can you tell us more about why do you do that?
So one of my favorite quotes is from Brooke Hampton, and she says, speak to your children as if they are the wisest, kindest, most beautiful, and magical humans on the earth, for what they believe is what they will become. And there's been case studies about the way you speak to a plant, and how it affects how they grow. So why wouldn't it be the same with humans?
Sure.
I have always just looked at her and thought she was the most incredible, magical person, an absolute gift from God, and I always want her to know that, and feel respected and feel loved, and know that I value who she is. And I started letting her make choices at a very young age. I'm talking, when she was old enough to sit up and point, letting her choose either what she was wearing or what we were trying to eat and discover. Time that she's, getting upset, I always look her right in the eye and say, I understand, I hear you, I'm here with you, and get on her level. And it's interesting because so many times she, is just trying to get my attention and explain something to me or communicate with me. And I think we don't give children enough credit because they don't communicate like us from birth.
Absolutely.
And even children like your son's age, they are so with it, and sometimes way beyond who we are as adults, because they still have this beautiful, imaginative mind. And they don't have all these blinders and filters that we've developed out of fear because we're adults and we have logic.
Oh my goodness. So good.
I just get chills.
Yes, 100%.
Speaking our language, Brandi.
Yes, because we say, babies are closest to God. They're the ones, they just came from there. I feel like they are the ones that really understand and get life. And
you want to tell them about that explanation about Aaron, saying where he came from? He's
yeah. Well, when Aaron was a little one, what was it? What was this one?
I thought he was talking about, he was like, now I know where I came from, or something like that.
Oh, where he said, this is when he was really little, and he goes, Mama, my wings are gone. And I go, what do you mean your wings? And he was like, could barely see. So my wings are gone now. And I was like, well, no, let's get those back.
Oh my God.
And he goes, because God, he sends us down, and he goes, we have wings, and then they start to go away little by little. They start to go away. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
And you just said it. We start over fear, because I feel like there's love and fear. So hate, everything bad comes from fear. Everything good comes from love. And I think that we start to pile on, with the years and conditioning of our parents and just conditioning of society, we begin to pile on more and more crap. And I think that our whole life's purpose is to start to unveil ourselves. So start kind of going back to that baby, right? That whole natural, just pure of heart, just beginning of where we're supposed to be.
And that's what's beautiful about being a parent. I was never a little girl that said, oh, I can't wait to have kids. And when I was older, I never was like, oh my God, I can't wait to have kids. I want children.
Sure.
I knew I wanted a family one day, but most importantly, I knew I wanted a significant other.
Yeah.
And so it really wasn't until I met my husband that ready to start a family. And then once Billy was born, it was just incredible. But I think what's great is that you get to decide what kind of parent you're going to be. And I talked to so many people, and so many of us, didn't appreciate the way our parents parent, or we want to do so many things differently. And I think it's so incredible that you get that chance and that responsibility as a parent to kind of decide who you want to be as a mom or a dad. And it's been really cool discovering who we are as parents, my husband and I.
It really does highlight and reveal our foundations of who we really are, because you start to really question a lot of the things that you say, and you're like, God, where's that coming from?
Right. Parenting does teach you a lot of that. Like you just said, Brandi, we get to decide, and we're almost responsible to decide. Like, I grew up without a father figure really involved. He was there, but he wasn't involved in my life. And I've told Adam, I said, as I was younger, I kind of saw what mistakes I made because of that. But then as a parent, I start to say, I'm held responsible, and I'm the one that decides to break that chain, to now make this a different life for my son. And he shouldn't have to suffer from that, right? From those consequences of whatever it is that I came up with from not having a father. So no, absolutely. That's excellent. But speaking of Millie, you have to tell us about your sweet girl, Millie. How old is she now?
She'll be 17 months next week.
She's getting so big. I remember when she was born. Okay, well, staying on this whole topic of contagious, I want to bring up an ongoing situation that you keep having where people come up and touch and squeeze your sweet girl, and then they comment on her weight, which is so wrong. I mean, can you tell us about that?
Well, it's so funny. I think, first and foremost, like if you know me, if you're a friend of mine, you know that I love Millie's like squishiness, and she's like every other baby, like we all want our baby to have yummy squishy rolls.
Yes.
And I think a lot of what's been happening is so basically, yes, lately strangers, so people I do not know that don't know me, have come up to me and said, oh my gosh, how old's your daughter? And I say how old she is, and they're like, oh my gosh, she looks much bigger, which is hilarious because she's actually like barely on the chart for her age and weight. But that's fine. I think when we're parents or when you're adults and you're talking about babies, it's all about their specs and their weight, because that's just what we talk about, So that's kind of weird. But I think what really crosses the line is it's happened several times where people touch her without my permission, and recently it happened by another mom. And Millie was in the stroller, so she's, contained. She's not like out in the open, and the woman, had to go into the stroller to grab her little leg.
Oh my gosh.
But I think what made me so perturbed enough to say something on Instagram and to share it was because my friend's 3-year-old daughter was with me, and she could understand what this woman was saying.
Right.
And when we walked away, the little girl was like, is Millie fat? And it just kind of was like, why are we even talking about our children this way?
Right.
And even if Millie had, a weight issue, I just think that it's so unkind and inappropriate that someone would talk about it. You would never walk up to an adult and say that.
No.
And actually some people do.
I was going to say on social media, I mean, it's something that I feel like is happening and is becoming a norm now. You've got young girls that I have a niece who we were talking to a little bit ago, and she was saying, we were at Thanksgiving and she wasn't eating, and I was like, honey, what's wrong? And she's like, oh, I'm just trying to watch my weight. I'm like, you're like 12, like what's wrong? Why are you watching your weight? But I think social media does also play a big part in that, and you're right, it starts with people like that, who think it's okay. And how does that?
I think because of social media and because of technology, a lot of people have forgotten how to actually socially interact.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And it's so embarrassing because so many of the things that people say online, they would never say to someone in person. And I also think people just don't think. And the touching thing is a whole other issue, because you should just never touch anyone without their permission.
Absolutely.
But I think what really struck a chord is you're saying something that now a child that can actually fully understand. I mean, I think Millie absorbs everything she hears.
Right.
And after a while, if people are always commenting and touching you and prodding, I mean, that will absolutely have some type of an effect on you.
Sure.
But it was really just, disheartening that my friend's daughter heard, and then it became this conversation that we had to talk about when she's a baby, and that has nothing, it shouldn't even matter. So
it's already
really sad.
It was just planting the seed, and like you said, in that other little one, and that shouldn't even be a conversation that takes place at all. I mean, it's really silly. Really silly. But it blows my mind that it's happened repeatedly. I mean, I've never had it happen to my little one, but I mean, just hearing that kind of just blows my mind that really has happened. So how does Christian, your husband, how does he feel about that?
Oh, he thinks people are so weird. And, it hasn't happened when he's been there. I think that he is so protective. He's all about his girls.
Daddy.
Yeah.
So I think he would really be upset.
Yeah.
And, none of the touching has been, I mean, the touching is inappropriate, but no one has touched her inappropriately. It's just, why would you touch someone else's child and make comments about their weight? Yeah. But I think what opened my eyes when I shared this story is a lot of people chimed in saying, oh my gosh, I never thought of that, how often we talk about children and babies' physical appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Even mommies that you love, everyone gets together and they're like, oh my gosh, well, her birthday's a month before, and how much does she weigh? How tall is she?
Yeah.
When so many of those things don't matter.
Right.
And
it's
so
funny
much
you
of
said
it
that.
has nothing... Yeah,
I just saw someone's baby online the other day on Instagram. They go, can you believe they're only a month apart, but look at their difference? And I was like,
what does it matter?
like, what does it matter?
Well, it goes with the whole saying of, you, Brandi, are working hard at doing affirmations with your child and really growing that confidence, that self-esteem in her, and just like having all of that positivity grow inside of her. And then all of a sudden, this person comes up and is completely doing the opposite. And these babies are like sponges, and especially your friend's little one. So that's, it's very unfortunate that people, and another thing you said, you don't believe they do this with ill will. It's just kind of sometimes I feel like ignorance, or they just don't know any better.
Total ignorance, and people just not thinking before they say things.
Sure.
Just how people, like what I do in my home is how I decide to parent, how my husband and I decide to live our life, and it's just so different for so many other people. And I think that's why it's important that people do share their stories. Like I said, I just, so many people wrote me back just saying, oh my God, I'm so guilty of that. I've never thought of it that way. And when it comes to the whole physical, because so much of it is, our background and our nationalities and, our different DNAs. And so anyways, even if I just helped open eyes to other people, so that they kind of watch what they say, I mean, I'm so glad that I shared that. Cause,
I think that's huge. What do you think your solution, how do you think I amend that? So if that happened, say when Millie was older, say when she is understanding, how would you address making her feel comfortable in her own skin skill?
Right, that's a good question.
Yeah, that is great. I'm sure that's going to come up, because, I think everyone kind of experiences that. But I think that I would definitely take her aside and remove her from the situation and get down on her level and talk to her about how beautiful she is and all of the amazing qualities she has. When I did this Youth Empowerment Day for girls, one thing that we did was everyone had to talk about what feature they loved the most. Right. And so everyone jolts up their hand, and so some girls are like, oh my gosh, my eyes, I love my eyes, I love my hair. And then we kind of flipped the question around to them, and we're like, no, tell us what your friend would love about you. And the way that the lady positioned the question was more about your accolades, your characteristics.
Right.
And so then these girls started repeating what they thought their best friend would say. My best friend would say, I'm a good friend, I'm kind, I'm giving. But I think I would go back to some of those exercises and talking about like what a great athlete she is and how smart she is.
Right.
And talking about how I used to joke that like if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, because I do a lot of on camera work, so if my face is like gone, I'm still a producer.
Yes.
And I think that, you know, I still have this brain that wants to learn and discover and explore. And of course, you know, it takes us years to understand that it's not about the exterior.
Absolutely.
But it's a message that I think you can be taught as early as a child.
I think it's so important to talk, and I love that you spoke up because you do have an influence. And when you said that, I showed Adam, and he was like, wow, I never, you know, he brought that up to me, that same story he just brought up. He said, I saw something the other day, and it was something I never thought about. And I love that, you know, I love that you said that, Brandi, because it does. It opens, you know, people feel so taboo about certain things. They don't want to talk about certain things, and they don't want to open that dialogue. And you just made yourself vulnerable and actually put your personal experience out there. So kudos to that. And also, I don't know if you know, is it Tom Bilyeu? Tom Bilyeu, he is a motivational speaker, but he brought this up the other day. He has a podcast with his wife. So to even kind of translate this into a marriage.
I have to listen to it.
Yeah, to translate this into a marriage. You said the youth empowerment. He said, with my wife, he said, you know, it's natural human experience to be attracted to other women, right? So I could say, okay, that woman's beautiful. But for me to actually honor that and to not act upon it, that's a different story, right? So he says the way that I see my wife, I've chosen not physically, but attributes about her, things about her that I admire about her mind that I know will be there when she's an old woman, you know? And he said, and I put all my energy behind those. And he said, and once I did that, he goes, you wouldn't understand the power and the love, how much that grows every single day, because I put, like you said, what you focus on grows. So if you're able to, I feel like even with our children, if we're able to teach them to just focus on these things, then that will grow, that self-confidence will grow in those areas versus the physical, which, you know, with social media, I feel like it's growing. It's a double-edged sword. You know, it's a good thing. It's a great tool, but it could also damage a lot of people's self-esteem.
And I think that's why affirmations are good for all of us to do for ourselves, and also when Millie's old enough to write for herself, so that she is thinking about the things that she's great at, that she values. I do this with my nephews all the time. My oldest nephew, Maximus, he's an August baby, and so am I. And so Leo's, as you know, I think, you're a Leo, right? Yeah, okay, I remember. You know, are natural born leaders, and we're assertive and so forth. And I used to tell Maximus, I'd say, you're a Leo. I mean, even if you don't want to be, you're a natural born leader, Maximus. You will always be a good friend. You will always be honest. You will always work hard. And it's so funny because I remember when he was little, he looked at me like, wow, like even if I didn't want to be, like I will be, because I'm a brave lion. Right. And I still remember laying in bed and telling him this and knowing that he was believing it.
Also tell him he has the name of a gladiator.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So, but yeah, children are so amazing.
Oh, well, Brandi, going back to marriage real quick, what are your thoughts about self-love? Because, I mean, it's important. I tell Adam, I'm like, gosh, if I, you know, going to this whole thing with self-esteem and stuff, and we talked about, like, being a busy mom, and it's so hard sometimes to lose ourselves. So self-love, I always, you know, kind of describe it to airplane. I say, you have to put your oxygen mask on first before you can help anybody else. How are you going to, you know, give more of yourself if you don't help yourself first? And like you said, we're responsible for who we show up as. So self-love, because I see you and I tell Adam, like, gosh, she empowers me. I feel that in you. Yeah, you're a leader for sure. And I feel that. So how important is that in your marriage?
I think it's important in marriage and in any relationship, friendships too. Yeah. You know, I think too many of us kind of give our happiness to someone else, or her happiness is dependent on other people, and we give control to other people to fill our love. And no, I mean, you are the only person that can make you feel fulfilled, and then anyone else is just a bonus. I don't know if you knew this about me, but I wore a back brace for about 4 years from middle school to high school.
Yes, you have scoliosis, or had it, right?
Scoliosis, was bullied, and really had a crummy middle and high school experience. But I remember just focusing on the good things I was good at. You know, as soon as I took off my back brace, I was great at soccer, and you know, people that didn't judge me for the outside, you know, knew that I was a good friend, and, you know, focusing on what I'm proud of and who I am. And I think that building that foundation of loving yourself, and now that I'm a mom, I mean, I always remind myself, okay, speak positive so that Millie hears me speaking positive. And, you know, I've heard a couple of my friends kind of, you know, grab their side or say things about themselves, and I'm like, hey, your daughter or your son is hearing you, and they don't care if you still have 10 pounds left to lose. They don't care if the house is clean. They don't care if your hair needs color. You know, they just want you to be the mom that you are. Everything you are is exactly what they need. Everything you are is enough. And I think sometimes it takes people being parents or having someone that needs them for them to understand self-love.
Absolutely. I love that.
Because they almost are able to see themselves through someone else's lens.
Yes.
But it really has to start within.
Oh, Brandi. Oh, my heart right now. That is so good. Oh gosh. You have to preach that. That's so good. No, absolutely, Brandi. All right, to wrap this up, Brandi, because I know we're probably it's getting late and you got to be with little Millie here, but I love the idea of having our little ones listen back to this. I actually did like a prayer a long time ago for Arian on my podcast, and I told Adam, I was like, if he hears this one day, you know, when he's 20 years old or whatever it is, and I actually started crying on it, and I just feel like, you know, the internet's a wonderful thing. It'll be there forever. So if, you know, we never know, but if Millie was a grown-up lady and she was to listen back to this one day, what piece of advice would you want your sweet girl to know and to carry with her always?
I mean, it would probably just be something simple. What I tell her every night is that Mommy loves you, Daddy loves you, Jesus loves you. And just to know that she is so loved. She was loved before we even knew her. She is an amazing person. She can do whatever she dreams, and we will always support her in that.
I love that.
That's good.
That is wonderful. That you're enough. You are enough.
Simple.
Yep. All right, Brandi, well, we're going to ask you one last question, and this question is something that we ask every single person that comes on with us, and I have to say it's the one that stumps people, but it turns out to be always the best answer, and we thrive on this one. So what do you know for sure?
Oh, this question.
I love this answer every time.
I feel like even when you know this question is coming, there's just no way to actually, because do we ever know anything?
I don't know, and that's the wonderful thing about it. I feel like, well, I mean, this is your question, so I would ask you.
Yeah, what do you know for sure?
I always tell Adam, I know that I know nothing, you know? And the older I get, the more I realize that I love that you're actually turning this around. No one's actually asked me, so I actually love this little twist.
The same, me too.
Yeah, you know, that's what it is. I feel like the older I get, the less I know. And that's, you know, so, yeah.
That's funny you said that, because what I joked about is, do I know anything for sure, or do I know anything? You know, what I know for sure is this world is so amazing and vast, and there are so many brilliant things to see and discover, and there's always good, even when we are going through tough times and tribulations and challenges, personally, worldly. There's always good, even if it's small, even if it's just a small flicker. And I think sometimes when you're going through a hard patch, you know, having those stories to think about of people overcoming obstacles and really picking themselves up, you know, gives me strength. And knowing that, you know, what I know for sure is that the world is good and there's always good.
No, absolutely. I love that.
I love that.
And I always tell Ashley, I'm like, there's always good.
Yeah.
There's always good.
Yeah. You know, what is it? Attention goes where, energy goes where attention flows. And if you focus on the good, you're always going to see it and
Don't
find
watch the news.
Yes, don't watch the news.
Except I'm like a courtroom, like crime thriller addict.
Are you?
And like the twisted and weirder it is, the more I just want to watch. But I tell my husband, I said, it's just because I feel like by watching it, it helps me avoid having those things happen to me.
Sure. No, absolutely.
And I feel like Nancy Drew the whole time. Trying to figure out what happened.
Well, it brings some good balance, right? It's almost like junk food. It's like, well, I eat clean most of the time, but I gotta get that little balance in.
Yeah, it's like the person that gets the salad with the Coke on the side.
Absolutely.
Diet Coke.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, really quick. One last question, because I didn't even plan on asking this, but I've been wondering this, and I think a lot of people will be. You post the most amazing food, so much goodness. I mean, you're always around it, but you look so good. How do you do it?
Oh, so this is actually, this is such a loaded question. Nothing.
Oh.
No, so I'm an athlete. I've always been an athlete since I was little. And, I love being outdoors, and we play beach volleyball, and I go on long walks with Millie. But so much of it is just DNA in my background. Like, my body is crazy, and I just have a taste for all foods. And I swear, because I, like to eat a whole bunch of, I'm not the kind of person that will polish off a whole bag of Oreos, like a whole, but I definitely need like 2 to 4 kind of thing.
4 is good. I always say 4 is good, because after 4, your stomach starts hurting a little bit.
Yeah, that's the thing. I eat a little bit of everything. I don't eat everything.
Okay, so do you diet, or do you don't deprive yourself? Do you give yourself a balance?
Yeah, so I've never been a diet person at all. I love all foods. I feel like as a food reporter, I couldn't do that to myself. I will say, when I got pregnant with Millie, I ate more of what I like, and I actually gained 53 pounds.
Oh, my goodness.
And we, laugh looking at photos, because I look like I'm so well fed, so feel free to scroll the grid if you want to see me, have some cheeks on me.
Are you all planning on having another one soon?
Yes, we would love to. We'd love to. Here's the thing. I'm so selfish. I just want to hold on to Millie, and I want her to just be spoiled rotten. And I love having one. Chris loves saying, I love my girls, and it's just the best. I'm sure you love saying, I love my boys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think because we're both siblings, he's a big brother, I'm a big sister, we're the oldest. We love having siblings. Just for that, we think Mills needs a little brother, a little sister, but when the time's right.
Arian's 11, and he always says, he's like, I'm so lonely, and I'm like, I know, I'm sorry, had you young, but
that's when you say, I'm your best friend.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's funny, we pick him up and people are like, is that your sister? To him, and he's like, nope. Like, nope, that's my mom. But really quick too, I'm like asking all these questions, but scoliosis, I actually have it, and I didn't realize it until about 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
When I started having back pain. Yeah, it was horrible because I wasn't corrected, or it wasn't, when you're little, you can get a back brace and everything can get fixed and surgery. But for me now that I'm older, what they told, and I used to do some kind of lifting, weightlifting before. Mm-hmm. So I screwed myself, and I didn't know, I never knew. And so I have chronic back pain every single day. Do you still suffer from that, or are you good after your surgery?
Yeah, no, my curve is still there. Basically, what the surgeries did was just stop the curve. So my back will never be straight. I mean, if I ever complain about my back, that means that it really hurts, because just like you, I live with pain. Sure. But luckily, soft tissue massages and foam rolling and acupressure, acupuncture, physical therapy, really massages help me significantly. And then also just helping with my mobility by stretching and doing different workouts. That helps. Okay. And staying hydrated. I really think that helps me with my scoliosis.
Okay, thank you.
But it is a daily thing that I have to make time for and carve out.
Yes. I always tell Ashley that, I'm like, did you carve out any time today?
I'm like, no, I didn't.
Foam roll and massage. Yeah. For sure.
Okay, well, thank you.
And that goes back to the self-care thing. Everyone needs self-care.
I know, and I do it in other ways, and I always tell Adam that's probably the one that I lack the most in, and I'm like, can you give me a massage at the end of the night? He's like, stop. And he's like, why didn't you roll it out today? But no, absolutely. And I've never actually met anybody else with scoliosis, so I was really itching to ask you about that. But Brandi, oh my goodness, we adore you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I know we could talk all night, huh?
Oh, yeah.
That was good. We for sure need to come by and have some grub at your place.
Oh, you boys will get along. I know that for sure.
Or we'll head to Riverside.
Heck yeah. We have
the Festival of Lights is going on right now.
Yeah, we have a mission in. It's a beautiful mission. A lot of people don't know, but Riverside it's like a hidden little gem a lot of people don't know about. So Definitely.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Brandi. We appreciate you.
Hey guys, make sure to give Brandi a follow on Instagram. It's at Brandi Milloy, and Milloy is spelled Milloy, and Brandi is with an I. Hey, before you go, if you enjoyed this podcast today, we do ask that you give us a rating and a review. It really helps new listeners be exposed to Good Vibes Sunday and bring them on over. So as always, we appreciate you and thank you. Thank you for tuning in, Good Vibers, and be sure to subscribe to Good Vibes Sunday by downloading the podcast app found at the App Store. Catch you all next week. Have a happy Sunday.